Velkommen og god dag alle sammen. Just finished work for the day and I thought I'd make a quick video about Seidr. I'm working on a longer video where I'm going to go over all the historical sources that we have on Seidr. But I just want to make a quick one right now to speak about what I believe it is. Because we really don't know a lot about Seidr. We know almost nothing really, and as usual there's a lot of idiots talking and trying to make up things and give their theories as to what Seidr is, and they're not really making a lot of sense with their arguments. And me too, I have an idea of what it is, but I'm not really making something up. All I'm doing is connecting two things. So I think that Seidr has something directly to do with witches riding the broomstick a few hundred years later on in time, and I'll tell you why. But first, we'll speak about what we do know about Seidr, because we do know some things. We don't know how to practice it, but we do know some things about it. First, it was for divination, really. We see in the Eddas that it was for divination and also maybe to cause sickness or death upon someone else. Another thing we know for sure about Seidr is it was performed on some type of platform or a pedestal or a raised platform or stage of some kind. It was performed on. 3, it was definitely the woman or man practicing Seidr got in some kind of like loose trance, a frenzy, like they weren't quite there. They were kind of out of their minds for a little bit. 4, there was always a staff involved in Seidr. Always a staff. All the records we have with a Völva or and anybody, a man too, practicing Seidr, it's always a staff. And 5th, it was shameful. It was shameful, and most people believe it had something to do with being sexual, some sort of sexual shame that was shameful if women did it, but very shameful if a man did it. So those are some things that we know for sure. I'll go into other details of things we kind of know in my next video about it, but those are some things that we know for sure. Now, I think that this relates directly to witches riding on brooms that we find later on in history. Seidr, as you know, is the Old Norse kind of hidden magic that the Völva would use, or the shamans, whatever you want to call it there. But it was there in pagan times. Now, later on, a few hundred years later, we hear reports of witches riding on brooms, and we all know this. When a kid dresses up at Halloween as a witch, they ride on the broomstick and run around like that, and that's it. But actually, witches never rode on brooms. The origin of this is witches used to use a magical basically herbal potion to make themselves hallucinate and feel like that, and they would put that on the broom. So we have herbs that were used in Europe for a long time. Llenbane, I think mandrake, deadly nightshade, and there's some more I know for sure. But these have all been used in Europe for a long time, and what witches have done. And we have records of this from all the witch trials, starting from the 1200s all the way on, that witches would make this potion and put it on their staff or their broom, and these things, like I mentioned, deadly nightshade or llenbane or mandrake and some other things, they are known to cause hallucinations, and they're known to make you lose your mind a bit, and they're known to make you just kind of drift off in a trance a bit. So this is what the witches, this is the kind of herbal, ointments that witches would put on their broom. The problem is, these supplements, you can ingest them. You can ingest them, but you get very, very sick. It's toxic. It'll ruin your stomach. It'll be very painful, and it could cause some real damage. However, what scientists have found out pretty recently, I think in just the past 100 or 200 years or so, is that these hallucinogenic things or ointments, they can also be absorbed in other ways. You don't have to ingest them. You can put them in your sweat glands, and they can be absorbed that way, or you can put them down there. So this is exactly what the witches did. and we have records of this in a few different, I think, what was her name? Alice Kreitler or something. I'll put it up here, but that was the first witch trial that we know of. It was in Ireland, but the witch was Frisian, so definitely an area of a Germanic tribe. So and we have a record of this, that she, on her staff, she put this ointment. And that's what they did. They put this ointment on their staff, they stick it down there, rub it all around their puss, and then this ointment gets them to hallucinate and get in this frenzy, get in that state of mind. And I think this is exactly what Seidr is. It just checks all the boxes. It's everything is there. Everything about Seidr is like that. Like I said, the staff is always used in Seidr. Seidr always involves some kind of trance or frenzy where they weren't all there. It involved predictions, and it was sexually shameful, and that makes a lot of sense. So if a woman did this, it would be pretty shameful. If she went up on a pedestal in the middle of the town and she rubbed the broom all over her puss, then that would be quite shameful. But if a man did it, man, he'd have to be sticking the broom up his ass. So that's no wonder why it was so looked down upon, especially for men in pagan times. So that's about it. The only difference between Seidr and this practice of the witches riding the broom with the ointment on it is it was not done on a podium anymore. Of course, this was outlawed. This was very, once Christianity came into play, and about the year 1000 all around Scandinavia and Europe, this would have been very illegal. So the witches had to do this in private. That's the difference. And like I said at the start, that first trial of Alice Kreiter in the late 1200s or early 1300s, I forget what it was. She used a staff. They actually have a record of this. They went into her house and saw the staff covered with this ointment. So then people, the Christians and the prosecuting people, started to catch on to this when they were looking out for witches and for evidence of witchcraft. So that is how it turned into the broom. Think about this: if a woman was accused of witchcraft and the church went into her house and found a stave covered with this ointment, well, she's busted right there, pretty much. They knew exactly what she was going to be doing with it. But a broom was an everyday item, but it was just like a staff. So this is why earlier on in time, from about the 1200s on, we see for sure use of staffs like this. And then later on, we see the use of brooms just like this. And there's a bunch of witch trials that explain this. I'll cover those too in other videos, but you can go read about it yourself, and they're done all over the place. There's lots of records of this. So I think this is exactly what Seidr is. I've heard a lot of theories and I've heard a lot of different things, and none of them really make any sense. I think this is just witches riding the brooms and putting this ointment on it and absorbing it through their genital area. That is just a continuation of how Seidr was practiced in pagan times. A lot of people, and it annoys me when people do this, a lot of people kind of don't, they set a clear division at right around the year 1000 as to when paganism ended and Christianity began, and they think if anything happened after about the year 1000, there's no way it could be pagan, and it's total crap. So many pagan things would have continued longer in time. Their traditions, their magic continued for hundreds of years after this. It just developed into other things. And some pagan things never disappeared. I mean, we still celebrate Christmas. We still celebrate Easter, Halloween. These are all pagan things. Pagan things never really ever died out. The only thing that died out was the understanding of the myths and legends like that. So this is what I think Seidr is, actually. And I'll go over lots of different options, lots of different things that it could be, but this is what I really think it is. And if you guys have any better ideas, I'd love to hear them. And yeah, you can write it in the comments, and we can look at that in some other videos too. Ses neste gang.